A billionaire noticed something strange on his security camera. His maid, always silent and polite, walked away each night. No car, no ride, just two heavy bags and a tired face. One evening, curiosity took over. He followed her. What he discovered, it didn't just break his heart, it changed his entire life. Stick around. This story will stay with you forever. A luxury mansion overlooking the ocean, 5 high-end sports cars, a private jet parked at his beck and call, and a name that echoed through boardrooms and finance magazines. Richard Malone was a billionaire in every sense of the word. But despite all the success, something inside him had grown cold. Restless. He couldn't explain it, but lately, life had begun to feel scripted, predictable, until one evening, something unusual broke that pattern. Maria, his maid of nearly 2 years, was the most reserved person in his entire staff. She arrived early, left on time, worked silently, and never stepped out of line. She always turned down bonuses with a gentle smile and a soft "no thank you, sir." Most billionaires wouldn't notice someone like Maria, but Richard did. And one night, as he casually flipped through different angles on his estate security cameras, something about her caught his attention. There she was, walking out the front gate exactly at 6 p.m. No driver waiting, no Uber, no bus pulling up, just Maria, carrying 2 heavy shopping bags. Her shoulders drooped from exhaustion. She didn't notice the camera zoom in slightly as she walked down the long driveway and turned onto the main road. Richard leaned forward. She wasn't calling anyone. She wasn't even checking her phone. She just walked, head down, silent, alone. "That's strange," he murmured. He had always assumed she had a ride, that someone picked her up, maybe a husband or a relative. After all, she never asked for help, never mentioned her personal life. But something about this walk, the weight she carried, not just in her hands, but in her posture, it didn't sit right. "She's hiding something," he whispered. And in that moment, driven by a mix of curiosity and concern, Richard Malone, CEO of one of the biggest real estate empires in the country, grabbed his coat, got in his car, and for the first time in his life, he followed his maid. Richard kept a safe distance, careful not to be noticed. Maria didn't look back once. She moved quickly, head down, weaving through quiet suburban streets as the sun dipped below the horizon. The polished skyline faded behind them, replaced by the raw edges of a city most people tried to ignore. Soon, Richard's luxury sedan stood out like a diamond in the dirt. The roads were cracked and riddled with potholes. Streetlights flickered like dying candles. Stray dogs darted between trash bins. Children, barefoot and dusty, kicked around a deflated soccer ball in the street. The buildings loomed like skeletons, gray, crumbling, lifeless. This wasn't just a poor neighborhood. It was a place the world had forgotten. Richard's brow furrowed. He could barely believe his maid, his always clean, always composed Maria, walked through this every night. And yet, she didn't hesitate. She finally stopped in front of a rundown apartment complex. Windows were cracked. Graffiti covered the entrance. The intercom was broken. The front door barely hung on its hinges. Maria pushed it open and disappeared inside. Richard parked, waited a moment, then followed. The air smelled of damp concrete and mold. He climbed quietly, step by step, up 6 dimly lit flights of stairs. No elevator, no lighting, just creaking wood and silence. At the top, he found her door, barely marked with peeling numbers. Through a dusty hallway window, he saw something that stopped him cold. Inside was a tiny, one-room apartment. No table, no television, no couch. Just a worn-out mattress in the corner and 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, sitting around a candle, scribbling in notebooks. Maria stepped in, still wearing her maid's uniform. She knelt down, kissed each child gently, and opened the bag she'd carried. Inside were leftovers, covered neatly in napkins, food from his kitchen. She served each child with a soft smile. No complaints, no tears. Just quiet love and strength. In that moment, Richard realized Maria wasn't just a maid. She was a mother, a provider, a silent warrior carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders without ever asking for help. The woman who silently dusted his expensive bookshelves, who polished his Italian marble floors without a complaint, was raising 3 children in poverty, with nothing but a candle to light their studies and leftover food to keep them fed. He couldn't move, couldn't think. His heart, usually wrapped in business deals and stock numbers, cracked a little. He turned away quietly, unnoticed. Descending those creaky stairs, Richard felt the weight of something unfamiliar pressing down on him. Guilt. Back in his gleaming mansion, the silence felt louder than ever. He poured himself a drink, but didn't touch it. Instead, he sat alone in his study, the security camera footage still open on his laptop. Maria leaving with those heavy bags, her tired face burned into his mind. The next morning, something shifted. As Maria arrived for work, early as always, crisp uniform, quiet presence, Richard observed her like it was the first time. He noticed things that had always been invisible to him. The way she carefully packed leftover food into containers. The precision with which she folded napkins, like every small thing mattered. The soft hum she carried while working, as if trying to comfort herself. He opened her employment file, something he hadn't done in over a year. That's when he saw it, a glaring truth. She hadn't cashed several of her paychecks, some going back months. Stunned, Richard called his accountant. Why? He asked, already knowing the answer would haunt him. The reply came without hesitation. She said she didn't want charity. She said she only wanted to earn what she needed, nothing more. Richard sat back in his chair, floored. In a world where people schemed to take advantage of his wealth, here was someone who refused to take more than she earned, even when her children clearly needed it. That night, Richard didn't sleep. Instead, he made a decision. Not out of pity, not out of guilt, but out of respect. He wasn't just going to help Maria. He was going to change her life. But Richard knew better than to throw money at someone proud. Maria would never accept a handout, not directly. She wasn't the type to take pity. She was the type to earn, to struggle, to fight for every inch without complaint. So he devised a plan, not just to help her, but to honor her. The next morning, as Maria dusted the antique shelves in his study, he gently set down a folder beside her. Inside were proposal papers, contracts, and a brand new job offer. Maria, he said calmly, I need someone I can trust. She looked up confused. I'm starting a new initiative. A center for underprivileged children, meals, tutoring, safe shelter. Full-time management position. Triple the pay. Full benefits. It needs heart. It needs discipline. And it needs someone like you. Her eyes widened. But I'm just your maid, sir. He leaned forward. No, Maria. You are so much more. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You understand what these children go through because you've lived it. That makes you the perfect person for this job. She stood there frozen, torn between disbelief and gratitude. After a long silence, she finally gave a slow nod. If you really believe I can, I'll try. Weeks later, a crowd gathered at the grand opening of the Hope Rising Youth Center. Banners flew. Cameras flashed. Maria stood at the front, not in a maid's apron, but in a navy blue suit, standing tall beside her 3 children. They were all dressed proudly, their smiles brighter than the morning sun. When the ribbon was cut, the applause was thunderous. For Maria, this felt like the final chapter of a long struggle. A new beginning. But Richard had one more surprise. As she prepared to thank the crowd, he gently took the microphone. Before we celebrate, he said with a smile, there's something else you all need to know. The ribbon had been cut. Applause had filled the air. Children were already running through the new hallways of the Hope Rising Youth Center, their laughter echoing with promise. But Richard wasn't done. As the crowd began to settle, he stepped forward once more, microphone in hand. His voice, usually commanding in boardrooms, now held something different, emotion. I want to tell you a story, he began, his eyes scanning the crowd before resting gently on Maria. A story about a woman many of you may never have noticed. A woman who worked in silence, carried burdens no one saw, and never once asked for help. The room went still. He told them how he'd seen her walk home with heavy bags, how he followed, not to judge or interfere, but to understand. I saw something that changed me. A mother raising 3 children with dignity, feeding them with food she'd wrapped in napkins from my kitchen, studying by candlelight, living in a building no one should have to call home. Gasps filled the room. He paused, then turned to Maria. And today I want to honor her, not just for what she's done, but for who she is. He reached into his jacket, pulling out a small envelope. Maria, I bought your building. Every apartment has been renovated. Safe, clean, beautiful. And the top floor? That's yours. Fully furnished. Paid in full. You and your children will never go without again. For a moment, no one spoke. Not even Maria. Then her hand flew to her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes. Her children clutched at her sides, wide-eyed. The crowd stood. A wave of applause rolled through the hall, thunderous and raw. But Maria didn't look at them. She walked straight up to Richard, her hands trembling, and hugged him, tightly. Not with words, with feeling. With all the strength and vulnerability she had held in for so long. And then she whispered, softly, through tears, "Thank you, not for the house, but for seeing me. Because sometimes the greatest gift isn't wealth or power or even a new life. It's being truly seen, truly valued." What Maria didn't know was that Richard had also created a college fund for all 3 of her children and placed her as the official director of the foundation, earning 6 figures, not for cleaning, but for leading. Because sometimes the most powerful people are the ones who suffer in silence. Speech balloon if this story touched your heart. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder. Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear aprons